Hi guys, welcome back to the next chapter in this video log of building the Warbirds Replicas FW190. Designed for beginners. It's designed for people of all ages who haven't done any balsa bashing themselves before. Sure, they may have taken a screwdriver and assembled an ARTF, but to actually take bits out of a box, ply, balsa, foam bits, glue them all together, cut some more, glue together, sand them down and make something tangible out of that. But above that, finish the model off the way they want to finish it off very easily and then go and fly it will be hopefully a great achievement. And that is the whole point with this model. Richard Wills, who designed it and got it manufactured, his whole ethos is, let's get more people into this lovely hobby of ours. Let's get them opening their eyes to the world of building, from bits of balsa, bits of ply, to show them how easy it can be, but how rewarding it really is. And that is the point. So for those guys who knock these videos, you maybe experienced balsa bashers. Great. Excellent, I applaud you for that. But there are a lot of other guys who aren't. So don't knock the videos because of those other guys. That's got the bee out of my bonnet on that. The other thing I should do, it's been pointed out to me, is I should be encouraging you to subscribe to my videos and to like my videos. And obviously dislike if you don't like them, but yeah, like the videos, subscribe to the channel. There will be more. I'm not going to stop at this. I've done a lot of videos over the years, but this is the first one I've done real face to camera and really rolling my sleeves up and getting down to the nitty gritty of building. It's a true passion of mine, building and flying, but building in particular. So I want to hopefully pass that on to others. So yes, please subscribe because that gives me feedback. That tells me if I'm hitting the right spot with these videos. So enough of waffling, let's get on to the build. And the build this time is me looking at cutting out of the bits of the wings to take the servos, the cables, and also the ailerons. In an earlier video, I showed how we could get hold of the aileron template and mark out in pencil on the wing where it's going to go together with the servo boxes and where the leads are going to be cut. I'm going to cut the aileron next, but don't cut it yet because of a very simple geometrical thing we have to take into consideration. I use the template to mark out on the top and the same template to mark out on the bottom. But if you look at a triangular bit of wood, the balsa, in fact this is the aileron, if I hold that to the camera there, you can see that bottom edge there is what the template is designed around, but that top edge is longer. Of course it is, because it's coming to this same point here. So that edge is longer than that edge. So we have to make sure that when we mark it on the wing, we make another mark on the top surface to make it slightly wider, because otherwise if we were to cut it, the cut would be at an angle. Okay, if I were to take my ruler and measure it, I should really, in fact, what I'm going to do, just bear with me one moment, I'll get my digital calipers here. If I measure the actual aileron itself, 34.6. So 34.6 was the bottom edge measurement. And if I measure the top edge, it's 36.86. So it's nearly a millimetre longer. Oh, you say that won't make any difference, but it will make a difference. It will mean that if I were to cut as per the pencil line, I would end up with a line that's angled like that, which I don't want. It has to go down vertically from the top Anyway, having waffled on, I'm now going to cut into the veneer and cut onto the line. On the underside, I'm cutting on the line. I'm trying to get my cut to be as vertical as I think it should be. I'll be honest with you, if you don't get it quite right, you can always trim it up with your knife or with a bit of sandpaper on a block afterwards. So I've cut through to the end there. I'm just going to cut down now, just wedging that up so it holds the wing for me. So I'm cutting here. Obviously these will go right through here. The blade gets a bit stuck, and hopefully the end here, there's no glue there, or if there is a bit of glue that's just crept in from that joint of the wingtip, just push my knife down there like that. Now onto the top surface, and based on what I just said, I've got to come outside of that line a bit so that I end up with a vertical line. And again, I'm trying to keep my blade vertical. I'm not trying to keep it perpendicular to the surface. I'm trying to keep it, if you like, perpendicular to the cutting board underneath. It's quite difficult, but I wouldn't worry too much if you don't get it 100% right. Well, why not? Well, because we're going to face this cut edge with balsa. It's called a false trailing edge that we're going to put in there. And we're putting that in to take the hinges for the aileron. I'm just going to come here to cut that down there. Like so. My blade won't cut all the way through. I'm going to cut as much as I can. I'm bearing in mind I'm cutting through the foam now underneath there. I need to cut this bit here, my wedge, and again, if you remember what I said in an early video, several light cuts better than one big cut down. So that, hopefully now, if I just run my blade through there, yeah, that's going through no problem at all. So you can hear it going through there. If I wanted to, instead of using the blade on that knife blade, I could use my razor saw and just cut down there with the razor saw. Look, that's just come out. I mean, I've cut down there with my knife, and that is a pretty square cut from, yeah, so if there's no trickery here. If I hold the wing like that, that's the underside of the wing. I'm holding the square and I don't know if you can see it, but there's no gap. In other words, that's not hinged like that. Whoops, it's not hinged away from it like that or like that. That's nice and square, following those lines. So that means that that edge that I've now got there, just rub my thumb over it, that is good enough to take the false trailing edge of the wing. The false trailing edge is a bit of that balsa, and that has to be let in there, in between there and there. So again, not trying to teach you how to suck eggs, but you want a fairly good, decent fit in there, so offer it up, mark a line on the top surface. One of two things you could do here. You could cut it with my, in fact let's do that. I could cut it with my saw, my razor plane, with the vertical cut down like that. Like that. Offer it up. You can see there, it's a nice tight fit. Go to the other end here and mark up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark that position slightly longer. You'll see why. I'm going to cut it. Always cut to the outside of the line. There's the cut there and there. Really is a very, very tight fit. So I'm just going to take my sanding bar and just give that a slight sand on the end, and that will now go in there like that. What I will do is I will glue it so that it's as near as damn it on that bottom edge, because that's a fairly straight edge, and I'll leave all the sanding work to be done on this top edge here like that. Okay, I'm not going to bore you with gluing that on camera, so I'm going to do that off camera. I'll put it in my tin box so I remember it. Okay, let's turn our attention now to the cutting of the servo boxes. Now what do I mean by the servo boxes? Well, in the kit you've got some bits of ply here, 8 pieces. They form the side walls of the box. You've got a part that's shaped like that with the cutout and corners. The sides glue to that, and that forms the box. This is the top surface of the box. And why is that? Because when you mount it in the wing, the servo will be mounted to the underside of the servo plate, and then you'll screw that there to the box. In other words, glued in the wing, screwed to the box. You want to check a servo, you just undo the 4 screws and pull that out, and there's your servo underneath. So we have to drop those, sink those into the wing, and that's where I marked up the box in the previous chapter. So I'm now going to cut that. However, before I do, I'm going to change the blade on my scalpel. I've currently got that blade, which is a curved blade. I don't like that for cutting veneer. I like a pointed blade. Okay, so I'm back and I've changed it now for a pointed scalpel like that. So I'm going to cut that box, just making sure that I can see where the end lines come to by over marking, like so. And I know the covering will cover this, but I want to make this as the best job that I can do, really. I don't want the covering to have to cover up my mistakes. Now, I'm only cutting through the veneer. I'm not going any deeper with it. I'm just going to cut through the veneer, and then that should peel back to reveal the foam underneath. Use lots of Ailerons just to prop it up. And then using my markers. I also like the blade could shoot off at an angle. Always cut into the ruler, it's a steel ruler. Always use a steel ruler when you're cutting. That's your safety net. Okay, just make sure all those ones are cut, which they are. And you'll see now that a bit of screwdriver will do it. Your fingernails will do it. Will do a similar job. There, look at that. The steel ruler, there's no danger of me sticking that into my hand and spending another 3 hours in the hospital like I did last year as a result of a box strike, which my daughter discussed. Another way, me, down to my right. So there we've got the veneer out. Now for the foam. You could continue with this, dig the foam out, you could use your knife and cut the foam out. However, I've got a really interesting device which I made for exactly this job. And here it is. It's a soldering iron gun, and I've just bent a bit of wire around, put it into the terminals there, and lo and behold, that heats up and gives me a hot wire cutter for foam, which is ideal for this sort of job. Usual provisos: if you're cutting foam with heat, then well ventilated room. I'm in my workshop, which is quite a big workshop. What's it, about 10 metres by 5 metres by yay high, I don't know. So I've got adequate ventilation. The way this works, hold the button down, and then I can tell when it's heated up because it will start to, and in this temperature, because it is cold, give it a bit of time. This is when I find it's no longer working because I haven't used it for a while. Now it's starting to work. And what I can do now is just run my way along there, obviously being careful not to go too deep, but that's pulling out the foam. As I say, be careful not to go too deep. The depth you need to go to is the depth of that box there. There's something quite rewarding about using this. Something satisfying about using it. The reward is getting the job done. That's one side of the wood. So that's the depth we've got to go down to, which isn't much. There, as you can see there. And what I will do is I'll just trim the edge with the knife, because that is not going to make a neat job right at the edge, because I want it to go down at 90 degrees. It's great for getting rid of volume, and we'll see me use it again in a moment. There we go. And then I could use that again, or here's my steel ruler. So the only problem doing it this way is you don't half get a mess. A mess. You know what? Let's go around, stick over it. It's in there now. Now I can see where I need to trim from. So where's my again? Oops. So I can see now. I'm just going to go down the edge here. Right. A lot of trial fitting. There's no point in going mad over this here. A lot of trial fitting to make sure it goes in. You're just trying to get to the bare minimum you need to take out. I've seen some people go, oh right, no, let's take the foam out. Now take the foam out right to the way to the other surface of the wing. No, that's a little bit over the top of my book. You'll need to do that. Like I say, nearly there. One last go, but remember that can't be flush with this surface. That has to drop down to take the lids. That has to go down lower. So that's going to go in there very nicely. You see it's below the surface. This will now fit in there, and it will come flush with the surface. I don't want it sticking up there. I want it to be flush, and it's not pushing on that wing surface. The other thing I need to do is this run down here for the servo cable. It must be that one. Look at that. That's better. It holds it firmly. Why didn't I do that before? Because I'm talking to the camera. Get my knife. I'm going to cut to one side of that line, cutting into the ruler like so. Turn it round and cut to the other side of that line. Just think of a servo cable on edge, and that's what you want to cut out of there. Get over. Okay, so that's cut my bit of veneer out. There we go, there's the bit of veneer cut out down there. Foam. Guess what I'm going to use? Use my trusty soldering iron. Now here, I'm going to have to make a hole in the side of the servo box, and here the cable has got to drop down to get into the servo box. But once it's out of the servo, because the servo cable is halfway down the servo, but once it's there, job done. Excellent, that's it. That is now my channel cut for my servo cable. Let's just peel that bit of, cover the knife, just peel that bit of foam off so you can see the depth. There. That's the depth of the channel, the depth of a servo cable. And that's just going to slot in there, sit in there, and a tape will go over the top of it. There will be a joint, no doubt, in here between the cables, but I'll cover that in a later video. That's it. How to form the cutout for the aileron, the boxes and the cable trench there. And I'm now going to go and, whilst I'm off camera, glue the false trailing edge